All right, we're back. Welcome back. Hope you had an incredible New Year's week, a great New Year's Eve and a holiday season. It is now 2025, and I'm already off off my off my stuff for the new year. But we're gonna get focused. We're gonna get focused. Maybe next week we'll start. It's weird. It's in the middle of the week. It's kind of hard to stop implementing things. But it was a great football weekend. A great day of games yesterday, obviously, with the college football playoffs going on. And this weekend will be a huge weekend of NFL, which I was a little worried about if that was going to happen because it seemed like there were a lot of teams that were out of it based off of the idea that teams were going to keep winning, but a few teams decided to start losing at an opportune time and open the door for what is going to be a really interesting final weekend. The Philadelphia Eagles, however, will not be participating in that exciting weekend because they secured the 2 seed. So this game doesn't matter against the Giants this weekend for them. And Saquon Barkley will be one of the starters who is going to rest in the finale against the Giants. And Saquon is making the right choice, and the Eagles are making the right choice. I am completely on board with this. I would have been on board if he wanted to play, but I have absolutely no problem with him resting for a multitude of reasons. One, I don't think that you should pursue individual things like this when you haven't achieved the ultimate goal. If the Eagles were coming off of a Super Bowl winning season in which Saquon won a Super Bowl, I think I would feel more strongly that he should go after the record. But the reality is you can get injured. And the reality is we have no idea what kind of shape Saquon is in. Guys are banged up this time of year. They've played a lot of games in a row since their bye, and you don't want to risk your best player potentially not being available in the postseason, and you don't have a bye. If they had a bye, I would say 100% go for it. I think the important and bigger picture play is to make sure that he is rested and ready to go for the playoffs. Now, listen, I understand how hard it is to get to this point. Only 8 other players in the history of the sport have rushed for more than 2,000 yards, and he's only 101 yards shy of breaking Eric Dickerson's single season rushing record. But even if he does that, people are going to say he needed it in 17 games in the immediate. Eventually, years down the road, no one's going to think about the 16 games and the 17 game difference. And we're just going to talk about Saquon having the single season rushing record, which is an incredible, incredible feat to reach. Which is why I think Saquon should be the MVP, because us even having this conversation about him being able to put the team in a position that the starters can rest in the final week of the year, and he could just go out there and get a little 101 yards and break Eric Dickerson's record, should tell you what a kind of a season he has had. And doing it against the Giants, who have the second worst rush defense in the NFL, allowing 142 rushing yards per game, plus the team that let him go, it would be very poetic. But I just I maintain that the main thing is the main thing. And if you are going for a championship, which the Philadelphia Eagles are, and Saquon is your best player and everything goes through him offensively, you have to make sure that he's ready for the postseason. You cannot risk, I mean, it is unimaginable that he would go out there in a game that doesn't matter to get a record and something happens. And this is a violent sport, and it's going to be in the back of your mind because that is the risk that you're running, and maybe everything would be fine and he'd break the record and they go on and win the Super Bowl too. Tremendous. Maybe it goes the other way. And the risk reward here is just too much. So I'm okay with them playing it safe, getting him some rest and the other starters some rest, getting the offensive line some rest, and making sure that everybody is ready for the postseason. I mean, they don't have a bye, but in a lot of ways they have like a half bye because this game doesn't matter and they have the ability to rest their guys. And we don't know what guys are dealing with physically overall. Like, just because you're not on the injury report does not mean that you don't have nagging things in your body, that you're not exhausted, that your legs couldn't use some rest, just maybe some mental rest. This is a tough game. So I'm okay with it. I know I'm being a bit wishy-washy because I would also be okay with him going for it because I think these are rare moments, but they decided that the main thing's the main thing. and I'm cool with that too. So I really can't get mad at this decision. There's too much risk involved. All right. Well, let me climb back on my super duper right pedestal on Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets. I have been tremendously right about this entire thing. I told everyone that this was not going to look anything like what they projected it to be, and it hasn't. I will say I could have never predicted it would have been this bad, but this should be Aaron Rodgers' last game this weekend. He needs to retire. And I'm going to talk out of both sides of my neck here because I always say if a great wants to keep playing, blah, 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 you quit last week. He took himself out of the game. He quit. There's a million nicer ways to say it, but he quit. He quit. He quit on his team. Things got ugly and hideous. And he said, I'm cool. I'm tapping out. And I think that is a sign above everything else that's happened this year that it's over. And I don't need to see this again next year. It was atrocious, and let's just leave it at that. Sometimes you take swings and it fails. And that's what this situation with the New York Jets has been from the very beginning. He acknowledged this might be his final game. He said he's trying to stay in the moment, but of course, it's been a long career. I'm really proud of what I've been able to be a part of, what I've been able to accomplish. I'm looking forward to a nice mental and physical rest. That sounds like someone who's retiring. Obviously, he's not going to make that announcement, willy-nilly, but it's time. He's had 12 losses this season. That's the most in Rodgers' career. It's only the second time in 20 years that he's lost more than 10 games a season. Career low in touchdowns and yards per attempt. Posted a 1.2 QBR in the loss to the Bills. It's the worst performance by any quarterback since Davis Mills in 2021. He was atrocious. They're missing the playoffs for the 14th straight season. And since they didn't make the Super Bowl, it will now be 57 years since the Jets won, let alone reached the Super Bowl. All of this has been an unmitigated disaster, and it's at the feet of Aaron Rodgers. The Jets are a terribly run organization. They are a complete dumpster fire. But when you come in, make all these promises, and then make it worse, and of course, take no accountability for it, people get fired. Multiple people have gotten fired. People have gotten demoted. Their careers are marred by this disaster. People have been traded. It's just been a nonsense farm operation over there. And he contributed to it. And he wasn't good this year. And the vibes weren't even good. It would be one thing if they were struggling, but they had something going on. It's just been tragic. And there's no reason for them to run this back. It's not going to get any better. This is fixing the Jets is going to be a break it down to the bolt situation. And I don't even really know where to begin from there because the ownership is not good and they have no culture. They have pieces of talent scattered around of high level talent that are not being utilized properly. And I just don't know what the future holds for them. But I do know I don't need to see any more Aaron Rodgers. Look, he's a walk-in Hall of Famer, first ballot, one of the greatest to ever play the game. Sometimes it doesn't end pretty, but don't make it worse by coming back and spreading more of this nonsense around. I mean, he quit last week. He took himself out of the game and quit. Just quit the game. Like, I'm done playing. I'm done with this. It's time to retire. Finally, JJ McCarthy is apparently on the trade block. I think we have to wait and see what happens in the playoffs with Sam Darnold. I know I'm on hater islands with the Vikings. I think they are a super talented team. I think their defense is incredible. They've played great football all season long. And I still need to see what they do in the playoffs. I have to see it to believe it. I'm not saying JJ McCarthy is going to be as good as Sam Darnold, but you're in a great situation if you are the Vikings, and these moves obviously won't be made until the postseason, but we're getting a bit ahead of ourselves. If they get knocked in round one or Sam Darnold falls apart, it looks like his old self in the playoffs, we're going to be having a different conversation about what they do. Teams are definitely going to call about JJ McCarthy. They traded up to get him at the 10th overall pick this year. And of course, he's been out all season with a torn meniscus, which is how Sam Darnold has emerged as the starter for the Vikings. And he's done an incredible job. 14 wins. He had 10 total wins in the previous 4 seasons. They're on the cusp of being the number 1 seed in the playoffs and tying the franchise record for most wins in a season with 15th. He ranks 4th in passing yards, 5th in touchdowns. Both are career highs. He's been tremendous. The Vikings defense is tremendous. They look like they're for real. They do. And they might have the number 1 overall seed going into the playoffs. That's a possibility. And I still need to wait and see. I just have to see it. I've seen Sam Darnold be bad for too long. We know he's not a force multiplier. We know he needs a bunch of great pieces and great coaching around him, which most quarterbacks do. So that's not an insult. There's like 2 guys on earth, Lamar Jackson, well, 3. Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, and Patrick Mahomes are the only quarterbacks in this league that I trust can win games and have seen win games with less. He is obviously not that guy. And to defend or to add to that, all of those guys have had good coaching. So Sam Darnold has had bad coaching and bad rosters, and maybe that's why he's looked that way. And I was just wrong about Sam Darnold this whole time. We will find out, though. We're going to find out in the playoffs. Now, there's a lot of solutions for this situation because there's obviously, as usual, a lot of teams that need quarterbacks. People are going to be desperate. And there really are only 2 first-round graded quarterbacks in this draft, in Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. So with all the teams that need quarterbacks and the amounts of quarterbacks that are available in the draft, guys are going to get overdrafted, and someone like a JJ McCarthy is going to be at a super premium. Now, they can franchise tag Sam Darnold to see if this isn't a 1-year fluke situation and then figure out a long-term deal after the 2025 season. $41.3 million is the projected value on a quarterback for a franchise tag. They have enough cap space to do that. And I actually like that solution, depending on how he looks in the playoffs, because if he does end up winning a few games in the playoffs, they end up in the NFC Championship game, I think you do have to keep him and consider moving off JJ McCarthy because he's still a young guy. So it's not like you're like sacrificing your future there. The Titans, Browns, Giants, Jets, Raiders, and Saints all need quarterbacks. They're all picking in the top 10. So they could also get some assets back that they had to give up. They had to use 3 picks they only have 3 picks in the 2025 draft. And their first round pick is their only pick in the first 4 rounds. So being that that's the case, they may just be like, fuck it, we're keeping Sam because we need more draft picks. But I'm just maintaining I need to see it in the postseason. I got to see what he does when the lights are bright. I just do. Sorry. I will be the last one on the bandwagon. I will apologize. I was wrong. I don't even think that he's bad. I actually think they're going to be good. I just need to see it. I have to watch it with my eyeballs. All right, let's get to some YouTube comments. Thank you for subscribing. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and leave comments. We get to comments every single week. Let's start with Steve Santiago. Saquon is the single best reason why Philly went from a train wreck at the end of last year to Super Bowl contenders this year. I agree, which is why I think he should be considered for the MVP. I hate that it is only a quarterback award. I think it stifles the conversation about this being the ultimate team game. We put way too much emphasis when teams are good on the quarterbacks. And I think we should just have a quarterback award and make the MVP actually interesting. Regular 8989. This is not Josh Allen's MVP year. All the pieces that left this offseason, no one thought, this is Josh Allen's MVP year. All the pieces that left this offseason, no one thought the Bills were going to be this good. I agree. The problem is we're having really great performances by a lot of top players. And, it's just our habit that we pay attention to what happened lately. Lamar Jackson and the Ravens need to beat the Browns this weekend to win the division, and they're going to do it handily. And that will be the final thing that we see. And Josh Allen will play probably 1 snap in this game against the Patriots this weekend. So it's going to come down to what the voters feel at the end of the day. I think it's Josh Allen's year. I think he's overcome more, and I think he's been better start to finish. But we'll see what they end up doing. Carl Benson, 6412. You left a guy off, Joe Burrow. He deserves votes and serious consideration. It seems as though the establishment media has already decided on Josh Allen. Josh's team is better than the Bengals, but he isn't better than Joe and never has been. Oh, okay. Well, we're splitting hairs on whether he has been better than Josh Allen. I think they're quite comparable as players. And no, he does not deserve serious consideration. For a quarter of the year, they were terrible. They started the season 1-4. He is a brilliant player. He is elite. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. He's in the top 4. Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson. But this year is not an MVP year for him. I'm not going to dock an entire season of Josh Allen playing excellent football, of Lamar Jackson putting up unbelievable numbers and playing excellent football, of Saquon Barkley resting instead of handily, easily breaking Eric Dickerson's single season record because Joe Burrow and the Bengals decided to get it together halfway through the year. He's been unbelievable. He is one of the best. He's done me a huge favor of reminding everyone how good he is, because I was arguing for him all season long that he is still elite, that they are just a bad team. But he can't be the MVP. It's disrespectful to other people's whole bodies of work this year that a 1-4 team led by Joe Burrow would then all of a sudden catapult him into the conversation. They may not even make the playoffs. It's not something I'm entertaining. He will win an MVP one year. It's not this year. Sports Talk EN7KB. MVP is Mahomes. His Chiefs are still the best in the league. Yeah, he's a victim of his own success. We see this a lot with the best players in any league, that we judge them against their best years, and if the numbers aren't the same, then they kind of get discounted. The Chiefs have been chilling for weeks now. Like they're going to win the Super Bowl. They're going to three-peat. And I agree that we should at least mention that Mahomes continues to be the best player on the best team, and we're not talking about him. Antonio Ross 3760. The final game between the Lions and Vikings will be epic. Yes, it will. I'm very, very, very much looking forward to watching that. I love when games like that matter in the last game of the season, and there are two really good teams, unlike teams like the Ravens, like a game like the Ravens and Browns, where I think the Ravens are favored by like 14 points. 10N6U, that neon sign is hard. Thank you. Thanks. Joy Taylor Talks. Go follow. Go subscribe. Thank you guys for hanging out. Hope you have the best weekend. Enjoy the weekend of games, and make sure you subscribe and follow. And we will be back next week to recap what will certainly be an epic weekend of NFL football and other stories. Thanks for hanging out. Have a great weekend.